The courtroom is quieter than usual this morning. The wooden benches creak softly as a few spectators settle in, and the low hum of the overhead lights fills the space with a kind of sacred stillness. Judge Frank Caprio sits at his bench, reading glasses perched on his nose, flipping through a stack of case files with the kind of patient rhythm that only comes from decades on the bench. His clerk, a steady presence at his side, shifts a few papers and glances toward the door. The bailiff calls the next case. Case number 4729. City of Providence vs. Amanda Reeves. Illegal parking in a disabled zone. There's a rustle near the back of the courtroom. A woman in her mid-30s steps forward, her movements brisk, shoulders squared, her expression somewhere between irritation and impatience. She's dressed in navy blue scrubs, the kind nurses wear during long shifts, and her hair is pulled back into a tight ponytail. She walks up to the podium with confidence, maybe too much of it, and sets her purse down with a small thud. Judge Caprio looks up from the file, his face neutral, his eyes kind but watchful. "Good morning," he says gently, his voice carrying that familiar warmth that has made him a beloved figure far beyond Providence. "You're Amanda Reeves?" "Yes, Your Honor," she says, her tone clipped, professional. There's a faint edge to it, like she's already decided how this is going to go. Caprio glances down at the citation in front of him. His brow furrows slightly. He reads aloud, his voice calm but curious. "Says here you were parked in a designated disabled parking space at the Rhode Island Hospital lot. No placard, no permit. Is that correct?" Amanda shifts her weight, crossing her arms. "Your Honor, I work at that hospital. I'm a nurse in the ICU. I was running late for my shift, and the lot was completely full. I was only there for 10 minutes. The judge nods slowly, his fingers steepled in front of him. He's heard this before: hundreds of parking violations, thousands of excuses. But something about the way she's standing, the way her voice has that rehearsed quality, makes him pause. He leans forward slightly, his tone still soft, still patient. "I understand that. But the space was marked for disabled parking, correct?" "Yes, but like I said, I was only there for a few minutes. And honestly, Your Honor, I see people park there all the time who don't need it. Half the people with those placards aren't even disabled. They just have a family member who got one once, and they use it whenever they want." There's a murmur in the courtroom. A few people shift uncomfortably. Judge Caprio's expression doesn't change, but his eyes sharpen just a little. He tilts his head, studying her. "So you're saying that because other people might misuse the system, it's okay for you to park there?" Amanda blinks. "I'm saying it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't blocking anyone. I was doing my job. I save lives every day, Your Honor. I don't think I should be punished for trying to get to work on time." The words hang in the air. There's a tension now, subtle but building. Judge Caprio takes off his glasses and sets them down gently on the bench. He folds his hands, his voice still calm, but there's a gravity to it now. "I have no doubt you do important work, Ms. Reeves. I respect that. But those spaces aren't just for convenience. They're for people who genuinely need them. People who can't walk long distances. People who are in pain. People who..." He pauses, his voice softening. "People who are struggling just to get through the day." Amanda's jaw tightens. She looks down for a moment, then back up at the judge. "I get that, Your Honor. But I'm struggling too. I work 12-hour shifts. I barely sleep. I'm exhausted all the time. And I'm just trying to do my job." Caprio nods slowly. He's quiet for a moment, letting her words settle. Then he picks up the file again and flips to the next page. His eyes scan the document and something shifts in his expression. His brow furrows deeper. He looks up at her, his voice quieter now, more deliberate. "Ms. Reeves, it says here that the parking enforcement officer noted something in his report. He said that when he approached you to issue the citation, you were laughing. Is that true?" Amanda's face flushes. She opens her mouth, then closes it. For the first time since she walked into the courtroom, she looks uncertain. I wasn't laughing at him, Your Honor. I was on the phone. I was talking to a friend. What were you talking about? She hesitates. The courtroom is completely silent now. Even the clock on the wall seems to have stopped ticking. I don't remember exactly, she says finally. It was nothing. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. His voice is still gentle, but there's a weight to it now, a sadness almost. The officer wrote that you said something to your friend. He wrote it down because it struck him. You said, these disabled spots are such a joke. Half these people don't even need them. The courtroom erupts. Not loudly, but the energy shifts instantly. A woman in the second row gasps. An older man shakes his head. Amanda's face goes pale. She looks around, suddenly aware of the eyes on her, the judgment settling over her like a shroud. Your Honor, I didn't mean. Stop. Caprio's voice cuts through the room, sharp and clear. He's not yelling. He doesn't need to. The single word carries the weight of a lifetime of compassion, of fairness, of humanity. He stands up slowly, his hands gripping the edge of the bench. His face is calm, but his eyes are blazing. Ms. Reeves, he says, his voice low and trembling slightly, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Amanda nods, her throat tight. Do you know what it's like, Caprio says, each word deliberate, to wake up every morning and wonder if you'll be able to walk to your car? Do you know what it's like to need help getting dressed because your body won't cooperate? Do you know what it's like to be in constant pain, and to have someone look at you and decide that your pain doesn't matter? She doesn't answer. She can't. And the courtroom holds its breath. Judge Caprio is still standing, his hands gripping the edge of the bench, his eyes fixed on Amanda Reeves. The silence in the courtroom is thick, almost suffocating. Amanda's face has gone from pale to flushed, her arms still crossed, but now there's a tremor in her hands. She looks down at the podium, her jaw working like she's trying to find the right words, but nothing comes out. The judge lets the silence stretch for another beat, then two, before he slowly lowers himself back into his chair. He picks up his glasses, puts them back on, and looks at her again, this time with something softer in his expression, not anger, but a deep, aching disappointment. Ms. Reeves, he says quietly, I want to understand. I really do. So talk to me. Help me understand why you would say something like that. Amanda swallows hard. Her voice, when it comes, is quieter now, less confident. Your Honor, I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was venting. I was frustrated. Frustrated about what? She hesitates, then shakes her head. It's been a hard few months. Work has been brutal. We're understaffed. I'm picking up extra shifts. I'm tired all the time. And that day, I was already running late, and the parking lot was full, and I made a bad decision. Caprio nods slowly, his fingers drumming lightly on the bench. I hear you. I understand that work can be stressful. I understand that you're tired. But what I don't understand is the comment you made. About disabled people. About the spaces being a joke. Amanda closes her eyes for a moment, her shoulders sagging. I shouldn't have said that. I know that now. I was wrong. Why did you say it? I don't know. Yes, you do. Caprio's voice is firm but not harsh. You don't say something like that unless you believe it, at least a little bit. So I'm asking you again. Why did you say it? There's a long pause. Amanda's breathing is shallow, her eyes darting around the room like she's looking for an escape. Finally, she lets out a shaky breath and looks up at the judge. Because I see it all the time, she says, her voice breaking slightly. At the hospital. People come in, and they have these placards, and they park right up front, and then they walk in just fine. No wheelchair. No cane. Nothing. And I'm thinking, you don't need that spot. Someone else does. And it makes me so angry because there are people who really do need help, and they can't get it because the system is being abused. Caprio leans forward, his hands folded in front of him. So you decided that you knew better than the people who issued those placards. You decided that just by looking at someone, you could tell whether they were really disabled or not. I didn't say that. But that's what you did. That's exactly what you did. You looked at that parking space and said, this is a joke. These people don't need it. And then you parked there yourself. Amanda's lips tremble. She looks like she wants to argue, but the words won't come. Instead, she just stands there, her arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller than she did when she first walked in. Judge Caprio takes a deep breath, his expression softening just a fraction. Ms. Reeves, let me tell you something. I've been doing this job for a long time. I've seen thousands of people come through this courtroom. And one thing I've learned is that you can't judge someone's pain just by looking at them. You can't see arthritis. You can't see chronic pain. You can't see heart conditions, or lung disease, or the exhaustion that comes from fighting a battle no one else can see. And when you make assumptions about people, when you decide that their struggles don't matter, you're not just breaking the law. You're breaking something much more important. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Amanda's eyes are glistening now, tears threatening to spill over. You're a nurse, Caprio continues. You take care of people. You see them at their most vulnerable. You should know better than anyone that suffering isn't always visible. I do know that, Amanda whispers. I do. Then why did you say it? She wipes at her eyes with the back of her hand, her voice shaking. Because I'm angry. I'm so angry all the time, and I don't know why. I love my job, but it's killing me. I see people die every week. I hold their hands. I tell their families. And I go home, and I can't sleep, and I can't eat, and I feel like I'm drowning. And that day, I was just so tired, and I saw that spot, and I thought, just this once. Just this one time, I can take a shortcut. And then the officer came, and I felt stupid, and I said something I shouldn't have said. The courtroom is silent. Judge Caprio watches her, his face unreadable. He picks up a pen, taps it lightly against the file, then sets it down again. Ms. Reeves, are you getting help? Are you talking to anyone about what you're feeling? She shakes her head. I don't have time. You don't have time to take care of yourself? No, Your Honor. I don't. Caprio's expression shifts, and for a moment, he looks almost heartbroken. He leans back in his chair, his hands folded in his lap, and he's quiet for a long moment. Then he speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. You can't pour from an empty cup, Ms. Reeves. You know that, don't you? She nods, tears streaming down her face now. You're trying to take care of everyone else, and you're not taking care of yourself. And when you do that, you start to break down. You start to make decisions you wouldn't normally make. You start to say things you don't mean. Or maybe you do mean them, in the moment, because you're just so exhausted and angry that you can't see straight anymore. Amanda covers her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. The courtroom watches in silence, the weight of her pain filling the room. Judge Caprio stands up again, this time more slowly. He walks around the bench and down the steps, something he almost never does. He stops a few feet away from the podium, his hands clasped behind his back, his voice gentle. Ms. Reeves, look at me. She lowers her hands, her face streaked with tears. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that what you did was okay. It wasn't. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that what you said was okay. It wasn't. But I am going to tell you that I see you. I see someone who's hurting. And I see someone who needs help. He pauses, his eyes searching hers. And I'm going to help you. But first, I need you to help me understand something. What, Your Honor? Tell me about the person who needed that parking spot. The person you took it from. Amanda looks confused. I don't know who it was. Exactly, Caprio says quietly. You don't know. But I do. And with that, he turns and walks back to the bench, leaving Amanda standing there, her heart pounding, wondering what he's about to say next. Judge Caprio climbs the steps back to his bench, each footfall deliberate, echoing softly in the hushed courtroom. He doesn't sit down right away. Instead, he stands there for a moment, his hand resting on the edge of the wood, his eyes distant, like he's somewhere else entirely. Amanda watches him from the podium, her face still wet with tears, her breathing uneven. The courtroom feels smaller now, the walls pressing in, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, the judge reaches for the file again, flips it open, and pulls out a single sheet of paper clipped to the back. He studies it for a long moment, his jaw working, his expression tight. Ms. Reeves, he says, his voice measured, careful, do you remember what time you parked in that disabled spot? Amanda blinks, caught off guard by the question. It was around 7:15 in the morning. I think. 7:15, Caprio repeats, nodding slowly. And you said you were only there for 10 minutes. Yes, Your Honor. Maybe less. Okay. He sets the paper down and looks at her directly. I want to tell you about someone. Her name is Margaret Sullivan. 72 years old. She's a retired teacher from Cranston. Lives alone. Has severe osteoarthritis in both knees and her hips. She uses a walker most days, and on bad days, she needs a wheelchair. On the morning of October 9, the same morning you parked in that disabled spot, Margaret had a doctor's appointment at Rhode Island Hospital. Cardiology. She's been having chest pains. Amanda's face goes pale. She opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. Caprio continues, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. Margaret left her house at 6:30 that morning because she knows parking is hard at the hospital. She knows she needs to get there early to find a spot close to the entrance because she can't walk far. She drove around that parking lot for 20 minutes, Ms. Reeves. 20 minutes. And she saw your car in that disabled spot. No placard. No permit. Just sitting there. The judge pauses, letting the words settle. The courtroom is silent except for the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Amanda's hands are gripping the edge of the podium now, her knuckles white. She had to park all the way at the back of the lot, Caprio says, his voice quieter now, almost a whisper. And she had to walk. Or try to walk. With her walker. In the cold. Do you know how far that is, Ms. Reeves? From the back of that lot to the main entrance? Amanda shakes her head, her eyes brimming with fresh tears. About 300 yards. For you or me, maybe that's nothing. A 2-minute walk. But for Margaret Sullivan, with her arthritis, with her chest pains, with her walker catching on the uneven pavement, it took her almost 15 minutes. And by the time she got inside, she was in so much pain that she had to sit down in the lobby and wait for someone to bring her a wheelchair. She missed her appointment. She had to reschedule. And she went home that day feeling like she didn't matter. Like the world didn't care about her struggle. The tears are streaming down Amanda's face now, her shoulders shaking. She tries to speak, but her voice cracks. Your Honor, I didn't know. I know you didn't know, Caprio says, his voice gentle but firm. That's the point. You didn't know because you didn't stop to think. You didn't stop to consider that maybe, just maybe, that spot wasn't there for your convenience. It was there for someone like Margaret. Someone who needs it. Someone who depends on it. He picks up the paper again, holding it up so Amanda can see it, though she can't read the words from where she's standing. This is a letter from Margaret. She wrote it to the parking enforcement office after she got home that day. She didn't want you to get in trouble. She didn't want you to be fined. She just wanted someone to understand what it felt like. To be forgotten. To be invisible. Amanda covers her face with her hands, sobbing openly now. The courtroom is frozen, every eye on her, every heart breaking just a little. Judge Caprio sets the letter down gently, his own eyes glistening. He takes off his glasses, wipes them on his robe, and puts them back on. When he speaks again, his voice is thick with emotion. Ms. Reeves, I'm going to read you something. From Margaret's letter. Because I think you need to hear it. He clears his throat, his hands trembling slightly as he holds the paper. She writes, I don't know who parked in that spot. Maybe they were in a hurry. Maybe they had an emergency. But I want them to know that it hurt. Not just my body, but my heart. Because every day, I feel like I'm becoming more and more invisible. Like my pain doesn't matter. Like I don't matter. And when I see someone take something that's meant to help me, it reminds me that maybe I'm right. Maybe I don't matter. Caprio's voice breaks on the last sentence. He sets the letter down, his jaw tight, his eyes red. He looks at Amanda, who is now leaning on the podium for support, her entire body shaking. Do you understand now? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you understand what you took from her? It wasn't just a parking spot. It was her dignity. Her sense of worth. Her belief that the world still has room for people like her. Amanda can't speak. She just stands there, broken, her sobs filling the courtroom. Judge Caprio walks down the steps again, slower this time, his movements heavy with the weight of the moment. He stops in front of the podium, close enough that Amanda can see the tears in his eyes. I want you to know something, he says softly. Margaret doesn't hate you. She doesn't want you punished. She just wants you to understand. And I think you do now. Don't you? Amanda nods, her voice choked. Yes, Your Honor. I do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Caprio reaches out, his hand hovering near her shoulder, not quite touching, but close enough that she can feel the warmth of it. I believe you, he says. I believe you're sorry. But sorry isn't enough. You have to do better. You have to be better. He turns away, walks back to the bench, and sits down. He folds his hands in front of him, his face composed now, though the emotion is still there, simmering just beneath the surface. Ms. Reeves, he says, his voice steady, I'm going to ask you one more question before I make my decision. Amanda looks up, her face blotchy and swollen. If you could say something to Margaret right now, what would it be? Amanda takes a shaky breath, her hands clasped together like she's praying. I would tell her. I would tell her that I see her now. That I'm sorry I didn't see her before. That she matters. That her pain matters. And that I'll never, ever take something from someone like her again. Judge Caprio nods slowly, his expression softening. Good, he says quietly. That's a start. He picks up his gavel, holds it for a moment, then sets it down again without striking it. We're not done yet, he says. But we're getting there. And the courtroom waits, breathless, for what comes next. Judge Caprio sits back in his chair, his hands folded on the bench, his eyes never leaving Amanda Reeves. She's still standing at the podium, her face red and swollen, her body trembling with the weight of everything that's been said. The courtroom is silent, but it's a different kind of silence now, not tense, but expectant, like everyone is waiting for the other shoe to drop. The judge glances at his clerk, then at the bailiff, and finally back at Amanda. He picks up the file one more time, flips through it slowly, then closes it with a soft thud. Ms. Reeves, he says, his voice calm but carrying a gravity that makes everyone sit up a little straighter, I've been thinking about what you said earlier. About how you're angry all the time. About how you're exhausted. About how you feel like you're drowning. Amanda nods, wiping at her eyes with a crumpled tissue she's been clutching. And I've been thinking about Margaret Sullivan, Caprio continues. About what she went through that morning. About the pain she felt, not just in her body, but in her heart. And I've been thinking about this situation, and about what justice looks like in a case like this. He pauses, his eyes searching hers. Because here's the thing, Ms. Reeves. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's not just about making someone pay for what they did wrong. It's about understanding. It's about learning. It's about making sure that what happened doesn't happen again. And it's about making things right, as much as we can. Amanda's breathing quickens. She's listening intently, her hands gripping the edge of the podium. Now, the law is clear, Caprio says. You parked in a disabled spot without a permit. That's a violation. The fine for that is $250. And based on what happened, based on what you said to your friend, I could easily impose that fine. I could even add a community service requirement. I could make this very, very difficult for you. He lets the words hang in the air for a moment, and Amanda's face crumples. She nods, her voice barely a whisper. I understand, Your Honor. I deserve it. Do you? Caprio asks, tilting his head. Do you really deserve it? Amanda looks confused, her brow furrowing. I don't know what you mean. Caprio leans forward, his elbows on the bench, his voice softer now. What I mean is this. I don't think you're a bad person, Ms. Reeves. I think you're a person who made a bad decision. And I think you're a person who's struggling. And I think that if I just fine you and send you on your way, nothing is going to change. You're still going to be exhausted. You're still going to be angry. And you're still going to be making decisions that hurt other people, even if you don't mean to. He pauses, his eyes searching hers. So I'm going to do something different. Amanda's eyes widen. Your Honor. Judge Caprio picks up the phone on his bench, dials a number, and waits. After a moment, someone answers, and he speaks quietly into the receiver. The courtroom strains to hear, but his voice is too low. After a minute or so, he hangs up and looks back at Amanda. I just spoke to someone at the hospital, he says. A supervisor in the ICU. I explained the situation to him. I told him that you're here, and that you're struggling, and that you need help. Amanda's face goes pale. Your Honor, please, I need my job. I can't. Relax, Caprio says, holding up a hand. You're not losing your job. But I did ask him to do something for you. I asked him to set up a meeting with the hospital's employee assistance program. They have counselors there, Ms. Reeves. People who can help you deal with the stress, the exhaustion, the anger. People who can give you the tools you need to take care of yourself so you can keep taking care of others. Amanda's mouth opens, but no words come out. She just stares at him, her eyes wide. And I'm going to make that meeting a condition of this case, Caprio continues. You're going to meet with a counselor. You're going to talk to them. You're going to start taking care of yourself. And you're going to come back here in 60 days and tell me how it's going. He picks up his pen, makes a note in the file, then looks back at her. But that's not all. Amanda's heart is pounding now. She doesn't know what to expect. I want you to do something else, Caprio says, his voice gentle but firm. I want you to meet Margaret Sullivan. The courtroom gasps. Amanda's eyes go wide, her hands flying to her mouth. Your Honor, I don't think. I do think, Caprio interrupts. I think it's important. I think you need to see her. To talk to her. To understand, not just in theory, but in reality, what your actions meant. And I think she needs to see you too. To hear your apology. To know that you understand. He pauses, his expression softening. Margaret agreed to this, by the way. I called her before you came in today. I told her about the case, and I asked her if she'd be willing to meet with you. And do you know what she said? Amanda shakes her head, tears streaming down her face again. She said yes. She said, if it helps her understand, I'll do it. I don't want anyone else to feel the way I felt that day. Caprio's voice breaks a little on the last sentence. He takes a deep breath, composing himself. So here's what's going to happen, Ms. Reeves. You're going to meet with Margaret. You're going to sit down with her, and you're going to listen to her story. And you're going to tell her yours. And then you're going to come back here and tell me what you learned. Amanda is sobbing openly now, her body shaking. Your Honor, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve Margaret's kindness. Maybe not, Caprio says quietly. But that's what mercy is, Ms. Reeves. It's giving people what they don't deserve. It's giving them a chance to be better. To do better. He picks up his gavel, holds it for a moment, then sets it down gently without striking it. And as for the fine, he says, his voice steady, I'm waiving it. The courtroom erupts. There are gasps, murmurs, a few people clapping. Amanda's knees buckle, and she grabs the podium to keep from falling. But, Caprio says, raising his voice slightly to quiet the room, I want you to take that $250, the money you would have paid in fines, and I want you to donate it to a charity that helps people with disabilities. Any charity you choose. And I want you to bring me a receipt when you come back in 60 days. Amanda is nodding, tears streaming down her face, her voice choked. Yes, Your Honor. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Judge Caprio stands up, his expression serious but kind. Don't thank me yet, Ms. Reeves. Thank me when you've done the work. When you've met with Margaret. When you've talked to the counselor. When you've made a real change in your life. That's when you can thank me. He looks out at the courtroom, his eyes sweeping over the faces staring back at him. This is what justice looks like, he says, his voice strong and clear. It's not just about punishment. It's about healing. It's about understanding. It's about giving people a chance to be better. He picks up his gavel, strikes it once, and the sound echoes through the room. Court is adjourned. Ms. Reeves, I'll see you in 60 days. Don't let me down. And with that, he steps down from the bench, leaving Amanda standing there, her face in her hands, the weight of his mercy pressing down on her like a benediction. 60 days later, the courtroom is buzzing with a different kind of energy. It's a Wednesday morning, and the benches are more crowded than usual. Word has gotten out about the case about the nurse, the disabled parking spot, and Judge Caprio's decision. People have come to see what happens next, to witness the conclusion of a story that has moved so many. The bailiff stands by the door, arms crossed, watching as the crowd settles in. The clerk shuffles papers at the side of the bench, glancing at the clock on the wall. And then the door opens, and Amanda Reeves walks in. She looks different. Her hair is down, softer, framing her face. She's wearing a simple dress instead of scrubs, and there's a calmness about her that wasn't there before. She's not walking alone. Beside her, moving slowly with a walker, is an older woman with white hair and kind eyes. Margaret Sullivan. The two of them walk up the aisle together, Amanda's hand hovering near Margaret's elbow, not quite touching, but close enough to catch her if she stumbles. The courtroom watches in silence, a few people dabbing at their eyes with tissues. They reach the podium together, and Margaret lowers herself into the chair the bailiff has set up for her. Amanda stands beside her, her hands folded in front of her. Judge Caprio enters from his chambers, his robe swishing softly as he climbs the steps to the bench. He looks out at the courtroom, his eyes landing on Amanda and Margaret, and a small, warm smile crosses his face. He sits down, adjusts his glasses, and picks up the file. Good morning, Ms. Reeves, he says, his voice gentle. And good morning, Mrs. Sullivan. Thank you both for being here. Margaret nods, her smile soft. Amanda's eyes are already glistening, but she's holding it together. Ms. Reeves, Caprio continues, 60 days ago, I gave you some assignments. I asked you to meet with a counselor. I asked you to meet with Mrs. Sullivan. And I asked you to donate the fine money to a charity. Have you completed those assignments? Amanda nods, her voice steady. Yes, Your Honor. I have. Good. Tell me about it. Amanda takes a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Your Honor, I met with the counselor at the hospital. Her name is Dr. Lisa Chong. She's been amazing. We've been meeting once a week, and she's been helping me understand why I was so angry all the time. She helped me see that I was burned out, that I was giving everything to my job and nothing to myself. And she's been teaching me how to set boundaries, how to take care of myself so I can keep taking care of my patients. Caprio nods, his expression warm. That's wonderful. How are you feeling now? Amanda's voice cracks a little, but she smiles through it. Better. I'm not going to say it's perfect, because it's not. But I'm sleeping better. I'm eating better. I'm not as angry. And I'm starting to remember why I became a nurse in the first place. Because I wanted to help people. And I can't do that if I'm falling apart. That's very insightful, Caprio says softly. And what about the donation? Amanda reaches into her purse and pulls out a folded piece of paper. She hands it to the clerk, who passes it up to the judge. Caprio unfolds it, scans it, and nods. $250 to the Disability Rights Rhode Island. That's a good choice, Ms. Reeves. They do important work. Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to make sure it went somewhere that would really help people like Mrs. Sullivan. At the mention of her name, Margaret reaches out and pats Amanda's hand. Amanda looks down at her, and for a moment, the two of them just look at each other, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Judge Caprio sets the receipt down and leans forward, his voice quieter now, more intimate. And what about your meeting with Mrs. Sullivan? Tell me about that. Amanda's eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't look away. Your Honor, that meeting changed my life. We met at a coffee shop near. This response paused because Claude reached its max length for a message. Hit continue to nudge Claude along. Continue the hospital. And at first, I didn't know what to say. I was so ashamed. But Mrs. Sullivan, she smiled at me. And she said, let's start over. Tell me about yourself. And we talked. For 2 hours, we just talked. She told me about her life, about her teaching career, about her grandkids. And I told her about mine. About my job, about my struggles. And then I apologized. I told her how sorry I was, how much I regretted what I did. And do you know what she said to me? Caprio shakes his head, his eyes glistening. Amanda's voice breaks. She said, I forgive you. And I hope you forgive yourself. And then she hugged me. And I broke down. Because I didn't think I deserved her forgiveness. But she gave it to me anyway. The courtroom is silent except for the sound of people sniffling, wiping at their eyes. Margaret is crying now too, her hands still resting on Amanda's. Judge Caprio takes off his glasses, wipes his eyes with the back of his hand, and puts them back on. His voice is thick with emotion. Mrs. Sullivan, is there anything you'd like to say? Margaret nods, her voice soft but steady. Your Honor, I just want to say that I'm so proud of Amanda. She didn't have to do any of this. She didn't have to meet with me.